Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation today on this Tuesday edition of Focal Point. You are listening to the American Family Radio Talk Network, the most dangerous and feared radio network in all of America. Talk in the first hour, I'm going to go to Robert here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, talk in the first hour about the McRib sandwich, which is like a cult favorite for McDonald's all over the fruited plain. And by the way, McDonald's stores, they can sell those McRibs anytime they want. It's always on a limited edition basis because they want to keep it special and kind of bring it back. But I told you about the contents of the McRib. Here is Robert. Let's go to Robert in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Robert, welcome to Focal Point. And I understand, my man, that you were a brave soul and actually ingested a McRib for lunch today.
Proudly, sir, proudly.
And how did it taste?
It tasted, honestly, as delicious as I always remembered it. I grew up in the heart of East Los Angeles. I'm a Mexican-American, and I have eaten stranger things just as part of my culture and heritage than you probably want to imagine. Tripe and I growing up, I almost felt like those stories you hear about the Native Americans never wasting any part of the buffalo. So it wasn't anything really abnormal at all for what you were describing. I was a little surprised that amongst everything else there wasn't any rib in there, but it didn't bother me any.
Yeah, it's a totally, I mean, the shape of the thing is like totally manufactured. I mean, they just create that shape by the way they mold the, what they call that thing, the restructured meat technology that they use. All right, Robert, listen, I appreciate it. You are a brave man. And I remember one time I was on a mission trip in Suriname in South America, and we were at this Bible school. You know, and these were people of very, very limited means that would come to this Bible school coming from the bush. And so the fare that they ate was very meager and very modest, mostly consisted of rice and very weak tea. And we were there as their honored guests, and so they served us meat with our rice. Now, the regular students didn't get meat, but we were the honored guests from America. So they actually went out of their way to see that we had meat. One night I remember we had a choice between alligator, armadillo, monkey, and wild boar. We had our choice between those four. All tasted like chicken to me. I think I had the alligator just to be able to say I did it. But anyway, I had this piece of meat in my rice, very dark and thick, and I cut into it. I took a bite, and I couldn't eat it. I mean, there just isn't any way I could choke that down. I had to upchuck my dinner, which would have really been rude. So one of the guys that was with me was on this trip, had grown up on a farm. And he sampled. He said, "Oh, that's pig heart. What that is, that's a heart. That's like a delicacy." And I said, "Man, David, if you want it, knock yourself out." So I gave it to him, and he chomped down on that thing. It was a delicacy growing up on the farm. All right. We're hoping to be able to get John Lott on the program sometime during this hour. I want to play some sound bites that have to do with this Connecticut shooting. Why don't we grab clip number 2? President Obama is out there now. And by the way, I saw just on the break that the Governor McDonnell of Virginia is thinking about working out a way to give school officials arms. And Tennessee is considering training and arming school teachers. So I cannot tell you how gratified I am to see this. This is common sense. People actually using their brains now and thinking maybe we need to take advantage of the minds that God has given us, the Second Amendment that God has given us, and the guns that God has made available to us, and use them to protect our children. President Obama's out there. He wants a ban on assault weapons. He's going to work on that in his second term. And meanwhile, gun prosecution's way down under Barack Obama. They're down 40% under Barack Obama. So for a guy that says, "Man, I'm really worried about gun violence," he's not prosecuting gun violations, and he's shipping illegal guns to Mexico fast and furious. So Jake Tapper, ABC News, is clip number 2. He asked Jay Carney, the president's spokesman, yesterday, "Can you name one thing that President Obama has done to reduce gun violence?" Here's how it went.
In the October presidential debate, the president said one of the debates, weapons that were designed for soldiers in war theaters don't belong on our streets. Can you name one thing the president has done in the last 4 years to help remove weapons of war from our streets?
You know, there's no question, Jake, that the scourge of gun violence is a problem that has not sufficiently been addressed because, as we saw in Newtown, we continue to have horrific tragedies that result in innocent victims. The President supports the assault weapons ban and the reinstatement of the assault weapons ban, but we have to...
Thinking. I mean, like, has he taken one measure, one act, one, to remove the weapons of war that he talks about?
Again, he supports legislation that is designed to ban some weapons, but as you know, this is a complex issue, and that requires complex solutions. And he looks forward to engaging the American people in an effort to do more. As he made clear last night, we need to change. We have not done enough, we as a nation, and he will, in coming weeks, use the power of his office to try to help make that change.
So Jay Carney asked what the one thing. Jake Tapper says, give me one thing the president has done to remove weapons of war from our streets. Jay Carney cannot come up with a single solitary thing. It's just all political with these folks. Now, Robert Reich, who was a former Secretary of Labor in the Clinton administration, he says, well, here's what he's recommending that President Obama do. Remember that this is a president who said, hey, if Congress won't act, I'm just going to ignore them. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to ignore the Constitution. I'm going to ignore the law. The law says marijuana use is against the law. I'm not going to prosecute that. Colorado, Washington, all United States, you guys are completely off the hook. I'm not going after dope heads, pot smokers. We know that it fries your brain. It permanently lowers your IQ. That's why it's against the law. But I'm not going to prosecute it, even though I took an oath to uphold and defend the laws of the United States. Here's Robert Reich saying what he thinks President Obama ought to do. Clip 3, let's listen.
After Gabby Giffords was shot in 2011, the Department of Justice actually came up with a list of steps. This was reported in the New York Times this weekend. A list of steps that the administration could take to improve the system of background checks, like pooling information from other agencies to help identify people who are not mentally competent. I, as a former person in the executive branch, used to love stuff that I could do without having to go to the state legislature. The president presumably has an opportunity here to pick up those regulatory measures, do you think not?
Yes, some can be done by executive order, and he will, I think, try to do that. There's not going to be, if it's executive order, by definition, Congress can't stop him. There may be efforts to say that he has exceeded his authority under executive order. I think the big factor here, though, for the president, for the White House, for Democrats, is that the election is over. And I don't want to be and appear too cynical about this, Jennifer, but one reason the president may not have taken up what the Department of Justice had tentatively come up with before the election was the fear that there would be a backlash.
So there's that vaunted Obama flexibility. I'll have more flexibility after I'm reelected on gun control. Couldn't do it beforehand. There'd be a backlash. Now I got nothing to fear. Congress can't stop me. I'm just going to use the power of the executive order and just mandate dictatorially that things be done that I want. And Jennifer Granholm was the interviewer there, former governor of a Midwestern state. She says, I used to love stuff that I could do without having to go to the state legislature. Typical Dem. Don't want to have to mess with that pesky Constitution. Focal Point AFR Talk.